Hey guys, Sam Stein here at the Bulwark. I am with two people who I think are perfect for a story of this high caliber and quality. We have A.B. Stoddard here and Andrew Egger, both esteemed writers for the site as well. We are here to discuss the latest Mark Robinson story. Mark Robinson, if you don't know, is the gubernatorial candidate, Republican gubernatorial candidate in North Carolina, a rather controversial figure already prior to today. And then today happened, and CNN drops a story. I'm just gonna read the headline, and then I'm gonna sort of let you guys ruminate on it. The headline is, quote, "I'm a black Nazi. NC GOP nominee for governor made dozens of disturbing comments on porn forum." And look, we'll get into we'll get into some of the specifics of what the comments were. But whenever you have a headline like that, you probably have to assume the story is not politically advantageous for you. So, AB, I'm going to start with you. You get the honor here. I guess I want to go to because I'm curious if you've ever seen a situation, a candidate like this, with so much self-implosion, so much of a robust opposition research file like this.
Well, Sam, I'm glad you had me on. I know you wanted a woman to come on and talk about the perils of porn and just remind my son and my male colleagues that it never leads to anything good. The interesting thing about this is, remember Cal Cunningham was this sort of dreamy Senate candidate, a great recruit, and he blows up at the last minute. He was the Democrats' dream, and he blows up in a scandal. Mark Robinson has had baggage hanging down from his ears the entire campaign. He's way behind in this race to Josh Stein in the gubernatorial race, and he's a complete mess. So this might be the worst installment of and it's not even opposition research, whatever it is. It's old,
not.
It's old stuff they dug up from the internet. But there was also an investigation months ago that found that he was a frequenter of these lovely porn video booths that certain type of people like to spend time in. And he went every day of the week, apparently. Like he had to go more than, it was like 4 or 5 or more times a week.
He brought pizza.
So he is also a raging hypocrite. So he, abortion is murder, but it turns out he had to apologize for paying for one that he and his wife had years ago, and on and on. So it's not like this is like a big shocking surprise that's going to devastate his candidacy, because it's just really, it is a death by 1,000 cuts. But this is probably the worst. I mean, it looks at this point like the other stuff they were trying to ignore. Trump will not be seen with him, nor will Vance again on any stage in North Carolina. I wonder if they actually publicly sort of try to dump him. But he's not leaving. Because he came from the Trump school, the MAGA school.
You never leave.
Down, triple down.
Yeah.
So,
and this isn't, you said death by 1,000 cuts. This is like death by like impaling someone with like a samurai sword. This is like, This is not like a little nick here and there, unless you count every single thing in this article as a nick. I'm just going to go through a few of these. I want to credit Andy Kaczynski from K-File, CNN. He and his team were the ones who broke the story. I am confident in saying this is not opposition research, because Andrew does incredible, dutiful reporting. I'm just going to go through a few of these, and then I'll kick it to you, Andrew. Okay. Robinson graphically described his own sexual arousal as an adult from memory of secretly, quote, peeping on women in public gym showers as a teen. Okay. Then in another thread, he considered whether to believe the story of a woman who had said she was raped by her taxi driver while intoxicated. In response, he wrote, and the moral of the story is don't F a white B. I'm not going to actually say it at all. He repeatedly criticized in really vulgar, lewd, horrific terms Martin Luther King Jr. Never a smart thing to do. He talked about watching trans porn. He called himself, as we noted, a black Nazi. He said he's, quote, I'm not in the KKK. They don't let blacks in. If I was in the KKK, I would have called him, this being Martin Luther King, Martin Lucifer Coon. he once was reported as saying. So look, like any one of these alone would have been a devastation, but like it's the Niagara Falls of like horrific revelations here. Andrew, what do you make of this?
Yeah, and just a couple that you didn't even mention, just because
it goes on.
The barrage of it is the amazing thing, right? I mean, like just a couple more. Slavery is not bad. Some people need to be slaves. I wish they would bring slavery back. I would certainly buy a few. I'd take Hitler over any of the shit that's in Washington right now. I mean, like he was just on this website. There's two things here, right? I mean, like the sex scandals.
Right.
Are old in politics, right? And they can derail a candidate, right? And this is already like a really gross like sex scandal, just the sex stuff. Like the fact that like he was not just, consuming, a lot of people out there consume pornography, but like it was like the main thing going on in his life. He was like going to, these porn video stores in the 90s a bunch of weeknights a week to like hang out with the other guys at the porn video store. And then very obviously just took all that online and just hung out in these forums for these websites that he was hanging out in. So like all that is insane. And all this stuff that he's saying would be like unbelievably like catastrophically like scandalous and horrifying, even if he had just like, put it up on his Facebook page or on Reddit or something, right? And like it's like the in combination, it's like, come on, like who is this guy?
All right,
like,
let me challenge you too, though. Do you think in this? I mean, I don't even believe this, but like, do you think in this Trump era GOP, to AB's point, like you can just basically be like, screw it, I'm not going anywhere. Like, people will forget this stuff. Trump survived his own scandals. He was caught on the Access Hollywood tape. This is infinitely worse, I would argue. But is it possible that like Robinson just is like, screw it, I'm going to like see what happens?
Well, you got to win though. Like, I mean,
I don't think any of us are going to sit here and say this guy's going to win.
If this were a story, but it matters, right? Because if this were a story where like he was running for governor in like some Republican plus 25 state, and it was too late to replace him on the ballot, and he refused to get out of the way for somebody else just out of hubris, and there was no mechanism to force him off, then you could say, okay, I guess this guy's going to be the governor now, and we'll see what happens, and then he gets to, it's JVL's point always, is like you get to then make this not the big thing on your Wikipedia page if you can survive it in the short term and go on to do other things. It's like it's still a big thing people think about when they think about you, but it's not like the thing. But this is not that at all. This is North Carolina, where he's already significantly underwater in the polls. It's reddish, but it's a swing state. Democrats can win there. The current governor's a Democrat, and it's just been one rake step after another for him, such that. I mean, yeah,
but I'm thinking more, and this is for AB, I'm thinking more immediate. Like, can he survive this politically, or is he going to have to be forced out? Or will he drop out?
So there are only hours left until Mark Robinson could pull himself off the ticket. And he seems absolutely dug in. I watched the video that he released as he knew that the K-File report was going to break on CNN. And he seemed jolly and calm and full of BS and saying words like, it's not us. And he uses the we as if it's like, I don't know, some joint effort. The Pornpalooza.
Let me reassure you, the things that you will see in that story, those are not the words of Mark Robinson. You know my words, you know my character, and you know that I have been completely transparent in this race and before. Folks, this race right now, our opponents are desperate to shift the focus here from the substantive issues and focus on what you are concerned with to salacious tabloid trash.
But really, I think he's learned from MAGA that like he's not gonna back down. The interesting thing will be to see if the national Republicans get together, Trump, Vance, et cetera, and try to push him out, in which case they could run a campaign, I gather, where they would alert the voters that his name is still on the ballot, but a vote for Mark Robinson is actually a vote for Sam Stein. And in that case, everyone, it's complicated, but they maybe could mitigate the loss. I don't wonder if they just take the loss. He was going to lose anyway. It really would be a great story for Harris and Walz if they actually tried to dump Mark Robinson, because it becomes a huge story that everyone talks about on the stump about the hypocrisy and all this other stuff. I would think that the Democrats could make a lot of hay out of it. I still think they can, even if he hangs in. They should use, some money in North Carolina. As Andrew said, it's a swing state. The polls are close. The Democrat is likely to win the gubernatorial race. Go in there and say, this is MAGA. They have abortions and they pay for them, and then they tell you that it's murder. They deny the Holocaust. They cast, aspersions on sinners, but this is who they are. And this is who they nominate. And I think there's plenty of room there either way. But you make it a bigger story if you try to replace him.
Yeah, well, for the record, I am not putting my hat in the ring as the next Republican nominee. Just because there's another Stein. There's already a guy named Stein on the Democratic side. We can't have two Steins. It's just too much for one state. To your point, though, it's also like of making political hay out of this for the Democrats. One, I talked to a pretty high up Democrat close to the campaign who is legitimately upset when first the news arose that this was coming. Like there was a big buildup like a couple hours before it got published about like, oh, this is devastating. So I talked to someone who was like, God, I wish this had dropped like, 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now would have been ideal. Not now. But secondly is like the Harris campaign is all over this right now online. They're just like tweeting it constantly, pulling up photos of Trump and Robinson together. Trump, I believe, what was the quote, Andrew? He called them like better than MLK or something like that. And then it's like, this is not the end of it. As we've been on air, a story has emerged from Politico that the email address that is associated with Mark Robinson in this story was also registered to Ashley Madison, which is the website for married people seeking affairs. So to AB's point, this is just, you can just use this as like kindling for the rest of the fall here, right, Andrew?
Yeah, and what Trump actually called him was Martin Luther King on steroids, which is
to Robinson that's an insult.
Yeah,
you don't want to be Martin Luther King if you're Robinson.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit evocative of the thing that came closest to this last cycle was the Herschel Walker campaign in Georgia, right? Where he kind of sailed through the Republican primary on the back of his very strong name ID in that state. Got the Trump endorsement, got the Mitch McConnell endorsement, and then it was just one kind of personal type story after another, secret children and abortions he'd paid for, and his son kind of denouncing him as a dad and saying he'd been horrible to him and his mom. And that stuff, it ended his campaign, right? I mean, he was going to be kind of an underdog, but he lost badly and ran.
He made it to the runoff. He made it to the runoff.
Well,
but he did.
Okay. But I mean, he was points and points behind, Brian Kemp in the state and things like that. And that was with Republicans rallying around him entirely, right? I mean, that was with a ton of sort of external artillery support from Mitch McConnell's people and his money. Trump backed him to the hill. So it'll be an interesting question. I mean, just because there's still this tiny bit of runway where Republicans could, in theory, try to shove the guy out and move in a different direction. I mean, you could see people making a lot of emergency phone calls to Mar-a-Lago right now and be like, look, we tried to resuscitate Herschel Walker's campaign and it didn't work out for us. And look, like this is worse. It's way worse. I mean, it's grosser. The stuff he's saying is just, it's just insane. It's the most insane stuff any candidate's ever said. I mean, it's truly, truly abominable and out there and wild. So I guess as a stress test for whether there's any possible thing that any possible personal scandal that could break that would make Trump pull the plug on you. It's not like it's all that nationally significant of a race, right? It's not like it's going to swing the Senate or something like that. But so as just a question of how much shame can you just swallow? It's a very useful edge case in that way, I think.
I think that they should be very nervous about a top of the ticket drag in North Carolina. I mean, not top, but Trump wants that state. He needs that state. Yeah. If Harris wins, it's really a problem for him. And I think that it is a problem.
16 electoral votes. 16.
So and that's why I think if they do pull the plug on him, Democrats need to act fast. They need to bring in the Herschel Walker story. This is MAGA. They don't care if the person is of any character. They don't care if they're a hypocrite or they beat their wives. They don't care if they deny the Holocaust and say Martin Lucifer Coon about Martin Luther King and say that they take, Hitler over Obama. I mean, this is whether, and they can speak to black swing voters, white swing voters, purple swing voters. I don't care, but they should speak to the undecided voters in North Carolina and explain that this is what MAGA does. This is what they've forgiven in Trump. And these are the candidates that they nominate and they champion. And I mean, maybe the window closes in a couple days, but if I were them, I'd get to work.
Ballots go out tonight. We'll see. Guys, thank you so much for jumping on this. I know it's not the highest brow of journalism, but look, this is why they pay us the big bucks. A.B. Stoddard, Andrew Egger.
Anytime.
Yes, A.B. Anytime that a story of this magnitude and grotesqueness comes up, we will get you on YouTube. All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And guys, hey, all of you watching, please subscribe to the Bulwark YouTube page. We really appreciate it. Share it with others. A.B., Andrew, thanks a bunch, guys.